My husband despised the snake baby I gave birth to and actually chopped off his head with one stroke. In my past life, my half-sister gave birth to a divine dragon. She even helped her husband ascend to the throne of the Dragon clan, and I risked my life to give birth to a small snake. But my husband despised it, calling the snake baby stupid. When the snake baby failed to transform into a dragon after 1,000 years, he personally chopped off its head in anger. I died of a broken heart. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on the day when the princes of the Dragon clan were selecting their Beast Consorts. Seeing the eldest prince, Drake Dargon, resolutely choosing my half-sister, Evangeline Silvermind, I knew he had been reborn, too. He thought that by choosing Evangeline, he could have a dragon offspring and become the future Dragon King of the Dragon clan. But he didn't know that he was born without dragon essence and could not make a Beast Consort pregnant. Our Silvermind clan has the strongest reproductive ability, born for the purpose of breeding. My sisters and I just came of age this year, and we were sent to the Dragon clan's palace to be selected. In my past life, Drake chose me, saying that only a legitimate daughter could match him. Evangeline Silvermind was chosen by his third brother, Ronan Dracon, and later gave birth to a dragon offspring with extraordinary talent, much to the Dragon King's delight. And I only gave birth to a small snake for Drake. The Dragon King still favored Drake, giving him 1,000 years, saying that if the snake baby could transform into a dragon within 1,000 years, Drake would be made the crown prince. The snake baby failed to transform into a dragon after 1,000 years, causing Drake to miss the position of the Dragon clan's crown prince. In a fit of rage, he chopped off the snake baby's head. Seeing Drake choosing my half-sister Evangeline, I felt relieved yet deeply pained for my snake baby, who worked so hard, was so obedient, and only wanted to earn a bit of his father's favor. But in his heart, the throne was what mattered most. Drake despised and even hated the snake baby, but he didn't know he actually had no fertility. The snake baby was obtained through a forbidden royal secret technique that I used. I clenched my fists, suppressing the hatred in my heart. I could never forget the scene of Drake chopping off the snake baby's head. But now, in the Grand Dragon King's palace, it was clearly the day when the 4 princes were selecting their beast consorts. My 3 sisters and I stood in the hall, waiting to be chosen by the 4 princes. The Dragon King sat above, smiling at his 4 sons, saying, "Our Dragon clan's bloodline is difficult to sustain, but the Silvermind clan is gifted in breeding offspring. These 4 princesses of the Silvermind clan are the beast consorts I have chosen for you. Choose according to your birth order." Dragon King Ignis Dracon was already very old. He used special means to have 4 sons, so he valued his offspring very much. He had long declared that whoever could have a dragon grandson would inherit his throne. After he spoke, Drake stepped forward. As he looked at the 4 of us sisters, his gaze was indifferent when he passed by my 3rd and 4th sisters. When he passed by me, his gaze was filled with undisguised disgust, but he finally and resolutely walked towards my 2nd sister, Evangeline. Drake didn't notice my trembling hands or my slightly pale face. "Father, I choose Evangeline Silvermind as my beast consort." Drake unhesitatingly held Evangeline's hand. Evangeline looked incredulous, her gentle eyes shyly glancing at Drake, displaying a vivid image of a bashful and timid girl. Seeing the ambition and joy in Drake's eyes, I knew he had been reborn too. I looked at Evangeline, who also glanced at me out of the corner of her eye, with a smug look in her eyes. My mother was the legitimate wife of the Silvermind King, and I am her only legitimate daughter. My name is Seraphina Silvermind. All those born after me are concubines' daughters. Evangeline's mother had long aspired to be the legitimate wife, but my father never agreed. Drake is a legitimate son. Evangeline believes that being chosen by a legitimate son makes her superior to me, thus her pride and arrogance. "Are you sure you want to choose Evangeline Silvermind?" The Dragon King was somewhat puzzled. Drake was his legitimate son, and in his eyes, a legitimate son should match a legitimate daughter. Drake understood this principle, but he couldn't forget the events of the previous life, the disgust in his heart still lingering. He smiled resolutely and said, "Father, I fell in love with Ava at first sight, and I choose her." In the previous life, he had chosen the legitimate daughter, and the result was a son who was a snake. He had been mocked for 1,000 years, unable to lift his head, and eventually lost the throne. Having been reborn, how could he choose the same useless girl who could only give birth to a snake again? Since that is your choice, so be it. Take your beast consort and return. The Dragon King, seeing his determination, respected his choice. I was not at all surprised by Drake's decision. A shadow fell before me, and I heard a gentle voice say, "Father, I choose her." Startled, I looked up to see the second prince, Orion Dracon. In the previous life, he had not chosen a beast consort. I was puzzled, but my fate was not for me to decide. The Dragon King, smiling, approved. All right, Seraphina Silvermind shall be bestowed upon you. She is the legitimate daughter of the Silvermind clan king. You have good taste. Orion extended his hand toward me, his eyes full of mirth. Although puzzled, I still reached out to take his hand. Our Silvermind clan holds a humble status. Apart from our excellent breeding capabilities, we have no other merits. According to my father, having the Dragon clan choose us as beast consorts is a fortune granted by our ancestors' relentless efforts in the underworld. The Dragon clan is supreme among the beast clans, while our Silvermind clan is the lowest of the low. Orion led me away. Drake, with a displeased expression, said, Orion, won't you reconsider? This girl appears weak and frail, unlikely to bear high-quality offspring. Drake, assuming he understood me well after being reborn, didn't realize that Orion was the only one who hadn't mocked him in the previous life, something Drake remembered. Orion responded calmly, Thank you for your concern, elder brother. I am of weak constitution. What matters to me is a favorable impression. Drake frowned slightly. Indeed, his second brother was not in good health. In the previous life, Orion hadn't chosen, probably thinking that his condition made it unlikely to sire offspring. Although he hadn't mocked Drake, he also hadn't had the chance. Drake's expression darkened as he said, I was merely offering a kind reminder. He intended it as a good-hearted warning. Whether Orion heeded it or not was up to him. Regardless, Drake was determined to become the Dragon King in this life. The third prince, Ronan Dracon, and the fourth prince, Lysander Dracon, also selected their beast consorts. In the previous life, Evangeline Silvermind had been Ronan Dracon's beast consort, but in this life it was Isolde Silvermind. The youngest, Aurora Silvermind, was paired with Lysander Dracon. All right, now that everyone is chosen, return to the palace. I hope you all strive to bring good news soon. The Dragon King, seeing his 4 sons had all made their choices, smiled and waved them off. I walked beside Orion, who held my hand as we exited. His hand was somewhat cold, indicating his frail health. Our Silvermind clan also practices some medical skills. However, recalling how I treated Drake in the previous life, enduring the pain of the secret methods for him, I had no intention of treating Orion. Since I was reborn, I only wished to live a peaceful life. As soon as Drake left the main hall, he picked Evangeline up in his arms. Evangeline let out a surprised yelp and then shyly buried her head in his chest. Drake laughed loudly as he walked away. Ronan and Lysander laughed as well. Eldest brother, this is truly love at first sight. Orion responded lightly. Indeed, it seems Drake couldn't wait at all. Only I knew he didn't truly love Evangeline. It was just that in the previous life, Evangeline had given birth to a young dragon. He merely wanted to become the crown prince as soon as possible and secure the future throne of the Dragon King. I suddenly felt a surge of hatred thinking about my poor snake baby. My hand was suddenly held, pulling me back to the present, and I looked at Orion. Orion smiled gently. Let's go back to the palace. I looked into Orion's eyes and saw his intentions. I lowered my gaze without saying anything, obediently following him. Orion wanted offspring, which was normal, wasn't it? He was merely weak, not impotent. Aspiring to lead the entire Beast clan was also normal. I expected Orion to quickly claim me, but upon returning to his silent palace, he merely let me get acquainted with the environment. I was now the mistress of the silent palace, free to do whatever I wished. He himself had other matters to attend to and left. He was gone for 3 months. Initially, I was nervous, but gradually I relaxed. I started a vegetable garden in the silent palace, personally growing vegetables and fruits. I overheard the maids gossiping about how the eldest prince doted on his beast consort. He gathered countless rare treasures just to please Evangeline. Whenever Evangeline sneezed, he became anxious and distressed. Every 3 days, he would summon a witch doctor to check Evangeline's pulse. He took Evangeline to the Beast Clan market, living like an ordinary couple, treating her exceptionally well. Rumors began to spread among the Beast Clan. If you marry someone like the eldest Prince Drake, who is devoted and unwavering. I merely smiled at the news. In the previous life, Evangeline conceived a year after their marriage, so Drake would certainly be patient for this 1 year. In my previous life, I conceived the snake baby only after 10 years of marriage. I picked a cucumber and carved it into the shape of a small bird, using it to remember my poor snake baby. This time I had no chance of becoming its mother. I couldn't even apologize. I wondered if it resented me. If I hadn't forced it, it wouldn't have come to this world to suffer. "Sarah, what are you doing?" Orion's voice came from behind me. I turned to see him walking toward me with a smile. I had been lost in thought, and didn't know how long he had been there. Had he heard my soft muttering? I forced a smile and said, "I was praying for the prosperity of the Beast clan." I lied, but it didn't matter. Orion held my hand and led me to the bedchamber. My throat felt dry. I didn't look forward to this. Drake had never been gentle. Each time was painful and unbearable. Later, when I failed to conceive, he became even rougher. After I finally conceived the snake baby, he never touched me again. The thought of it filled me with dread, but I couldn't refuse Orion. "Sarah, I had urgent matters before, so I neglected you. I'm sorry. I hope you're not angry." Orion's voice was gentle. I shook my head and say, "I'm not angry. I don't dare to be angry. As a lowly Silvermind clan member, I had no right to be angry." Orion led me to the bed, but did nothing. Yet every night we slept in the same bed. Orion helped me with the gardening. He even took me to the market to buy more seeds. Another 6 months passed, and our interactions became more natural. Isolde and Aurora became pregnant, bringing great joy to the Dragon King, who urged both Evangeline and me to make an effort. I felt embarrassed, but dared not defy the Dragon King's orders. I repeatedly promised to try harder, though in truth, Orion and I had not consummated our marriage even after 9 months. The Dragon King's urging didn't change our daily life. Orion and I continued our peaceful routine. Rumors about us began to circulate. People said that a slow and gentle relationship like ours was also good. They compared the flamboyant Drake and the gentle Orion, debating who was better. I found these rumors incredibly dull. To me, Orion was undoubtedly better. At least he was gentle. Perhaps he sensed my reluctance and had never forced me these past months. I didn't expect to encounter Drake and Evangeline while buying pumpkin seeds with Orion. Drake suggested we dine together. Evangeline, now more radiant and beautiful, leaned on Drake, exuding the charm of a mature woman and the coyness of a young girl. Throughout the meal, they flaunted their affection. Orion and I were much quieter, simply eating our meal. Orion occasionally responded to Drake. After finishing the meal, Evangeline pouted and asked Drake, "Drake, can I talk to my sister for a bit? Would you wait for me?" Drake gave me a cold glance and nodded. "Okay, Eva, I'll talk with Orion." Drake and Orion left. Evangeline smirked at me. "Sister, do you see how happy I am now? Father is already considering making my mother the main consort." I replied blandly, "Oh, congratulations then, but it's just the main consort of the Silvermind King, nothing too impressive." Evangeline pursed her lips and continued, "Drake also said that once I give birth, he will grant me the dragon's blessing and transform me." I remained indifferent. "Then you should work hard. Let's see if she still smiles when she finds out Drake is infertile." Evangeline looked at me with a hint of disdain. "Sister, Drake dislikes you, you know that?" I rolled my eyes. "I'm not his beast consort. Why should I care if he dislikes me?" Evangeline stomped her foot in anger and attacked me with another tactic. "Third and fourth sisters are already pregnant, but you still show no signs. Could it be that you are infertile? Though our Silvermind clan is known for exceptional fertility, there can still be exceptions, right?" I sneered and countered, "What about you? You've tried all sorts of methods and still no news. Maybe it's Drake who's infertile." Evangeline's face turned white. She yelled angrily, "How dare you curse Drake, you—" She was about to hit me, but I grabbed her hand and pushed her away. Evangeline screamed. Drake rushed over like the wind and struck me, sending me flying. This was the difference in power, but I didn't hit the ground. Instead, I was caught by a broad chest. "Are you all right?" Orion asked with concern. I shook my head. Drake was already holding Evangeline, glaring at me fiercely. "Seraphina, how dare you lay a hand on Eva? Are you blind? Didn't you see she tried to hit me first?" I held back my anger. Orion also spoke sternly. "If you're not satisfied, brother, let's go to Father and let him judge." Evangeline weakly explained, "It's just because sister cursed you to be infertile and unable to have children. I got angry and lost control for a moment." Drake's face twisted with rage. "You venomous woman, how dare you curse me?" The pressure of the dragon's might made me uncomfortable. Childbearing was Drake's sore spot. It was normal for him to be so angry. In the past life, everyone mocked him for having a snake child, which always infuriated him. He never acknowledged my snake baby. Seeing his face, a wave of hatred surged in me. "Brother, please watch your words." Orion shielded me from Drake, facing him head-on. Drake was infuriated, and Orion turned to ask me what happened. Feeling touched, I told him everything. Orion turned to Drake and said, "If you can't judge fairly, let's go to Father." Father We'll be just. Your beast consort is your beloved, but my beast consort is not a weed for you to look down on. In my eyes, Sarah is like the moon, and I will protect her to the end. Are you willing to turn against me for a woman? Don't blame me for not warning you. This woman has a harsh fate. Expecting her to bear your children is a fool's dream. If you ignore brotherly affection, don't regret it later. Drake sneered at me with disdain. He thought highly of himself, believing that my bearing a snake baby in the past life was solely due to his good fortune. He assumed Orion, with his frail health, wouldn't even have the chance to make me pregnant. Understanding Drake's meaning, I found it ridiculous. Orion, slightly slender, protected me, saying coldly, "My matters are not for you to worry about. Even without children, I will never regret it. With your energy, I look forward to your good news. Father has high hopes for you. Don't let him down for too long." Orion then led me away, not caring if Drake would be furious. My mind was in turmoil as he pulled me along. His words echoed in my head. Even without children, I will never regret it. Would he really not regret it? In a quiet place, Orion, somewhat guilty, said to me, "Sarah, I'm sorry for letting you suffer. My health is still not good. I don't want to disappoint you. Can you wait for me for 3 more years?" I nodded repeatedly. Not just 3 years, even 10 years I could wait. I looked at Orion and asked, "If I really am infertile, and you have no offspring, would you really not regret it?" Orion's ears turned red. He gently replied, "The Silvermind clan has an extraordinary fertility ability. If there is a problem, it can only be my issue. If you don't despise me, I'm already very happy. How could I possibly blame you?" My tears almost burst out. Yes, such a simple truth, but in my previous life, it made me feel guilty. I didn't get pregnant for a long time. Drake wanted me to clarify that it was my problem. To protect his pride, I agreed. I told everyone that I was the anomaly of the Silvermind clan. Drake and everyone else despised me. How could a member of our Silvermind clan, known for exceptional fertility, be infertile? But that absurd lie stuck with me for life. Later, I gave birth to a snake child. Drake had even more reason. He said it was because of my poor aptitude that I bore a snake child, while Evangeline gave birth to a young dragon. And our 3rd and 4th sisters also bore young ones. Only my child was a small snake. Note, snake, python, jiao, and dragon are of the same lineage, but snake is the lowest rank and dragon is the highest rank. Orion didn't know why I was crying. He gently wiped my tears and comforted me. From then on, I began to try to understand Orion. I found he had many merits. He looked very handsome when he smiled, like an immortal. He was polite, liked reading, could do farm work, and even cook. He could play musical instruments and paint. When I made tea, he praised me. When I made snacks, he praised me. There was an undercurrent of feelings between us. For 2 whole years, Orion and I got to know each other. We slept together every day, and even if we did nothing, we were happy. For the first time, I experienced what it was like to love someone. While I often heard rumors, I learned that Drake and his beast consort were fighting. His beast consort apparently had poor health and might be infertile, making her an anomaly in the Silvermind clan. Evangeline began taking all sorts of medications to condition her body. People sighed and compared Orion and Drake. Beast tribe folks would say, Orion's beast consort is also infertile, but their life is harmonious. You can tell if a family is good from the woman's face. I remained calm, often going to the countryside to buy seeds or giving excess fruits and vegetables to elderly beast tribe folks. The people frequently praised me for my kind heart, comparing me to a goddess. I kept in touch with my 3rd and 4th sisters, often sending them fruits and vegetables. Dragon clan pregnancies take 3 years. Though they had not yet given birth, their bellies had grown considerably. They let me touch their bellies, saying it would bring me good luck. I liked touching their bellies, enjoying the feeling of the babies moving inside, not necessarily desiring to be pregnant myself. However, there was no need to explain this. It was a fact that Orion's health was poor. I might never have the chance to be a mother in this life. I had sacrificed so much in my previous life to have a snake child. I couldn't endure that hardship again. Some pains, once experienced, you never have the courage to face again. Living peacefully with Orion was good enough. As for my 2nd sister, Evangeline, it had been a long time since she went out. This summer was particularly hot. I planted some red melons. Their flesh was sandy and sweet, perfect when chilled. I liked cutting one open and sharing it with Orion when he returned from handling official duties. We would sit on the porch, each with half, eating with spoons. Just as I had put a red melon into the well to chill and was washing my hands, a maid reported, "Your Highness, Evangeline is here waiting to see you in the main hall." Evangeline had come to see me. I thought we would never meet again after our fallout. But here she was. After a moment's thought, I decided to see her. This time, I was shocked. Evangeline was so thin her cheeks were hollow. She exuded an aura of gloom, her eyes filled with a dark despair. I could tell at a glance that she had suffered a lot. "Sister, seeing me like this makes you happy, right?" Evangeline looked at me with venomous eyes. I felt speechless. "Weren't you the one who came to my house to let me see you? If you came just to say this, then we have nothing to talk about. You can leave." Evangeline dropped her harsh expression and suddenly started crying. "Sister, I beg you, have pity on me. Tell me how to bear a dragon child. If I can't conceive, I will die. We are from the same clan, after all. Father said that as long as you teach me the secret method, he has no objections. It was my fault before. Please forgive me and have mercy on me just this once." Evangeline cried pitifully. The beautiful illusion of the past had long been shattered. She realized that Drake only used her without genuine affection, so after she didn't conceive in a year, his attitude turned cold. After 2 years of infertility, her life became increasingly difficult. Now, nearly 3 years had passed, and she felt like she had no way out. It was Drake who suggested that perhaps her elder sister had a secret method to conceive. After all, she was not the legitimate daughter, and certain clan secrets were only passed down to the legitimate daughters of the main wife. So, she thickened her face to come beg me. She had suffered so much for Drake. She hated his heartlessness, but missed his former affection. She thought that if the problem was all about having a child, conceiving one would solve everything. I sighed and said to her, "Evangeline, that secret method is extremely harmful to the body and very painful. Can you really endure it?" Seeing me relent, she cried and knelt in front of me, nodding. "I can. As long as I can conceive a child, I can endure anything. Evangeline, although our Silvermind clan has a low status, the Beast tribe still has its laws. If you request a divorce, the Dragon King would have to agree. After all, it's not you who is infertile, but him." I recalled my experiences from my past life. Despite Evangeline always comparing herself to me, I still softened my heart. Back then, I willingly endured hardship because of love, but Evangeline didn't have much affection for Drake. She only loved power and status. Being chosen by Drake was her misfortune. I spoke plainly, suggesting that if she gave up her pursuit of power, she could still find a good match. Evangeline laughed and cried simultaneously, not expecting that the only person to believe her was me. She wiped her tears and said, "Sister, I was wrong before, but I can't let go of this wealth and glory. Please tell me the secret method." I sighed again and said, "Very well, I will tell you. Use a secret method to lock the dragon's essence. After 100 days, it will surely form a fetus. But the pain during those 100 days is no less than being cut open 1,000 times. However, as long as you endure the 100 days, you will achieve your wish. This process must be continuous. If even 1 day is missed, the dragon's essence will be wasted." In my past life, Drake neglected me, and I failed many times before succeeding. The pain was so intense that even now, thinking about it makes my hair stand on end. Evangeline didn't understand the severity. She thanked me and left. Her visit was like a gust of wind, quickly gone. Life went on as usual. Another year passed, and my third sister gave birth to a Jiao, and my fourth sister gave birth to a pair of pythons. The Dragon King was overjoyed and generously rewarded them. Evangeline's pregnancy was also announced. I didn't know how she endured it, but she was pregnant. I sincerely wished her well. Now, the pressure to conceive was directed solely at me. Since Evangeline's pregnancy, her relationship with Drake had mended. People began to pity me, wondering what use my favor was without children. Rumors began to change gradually. Meanwhile, my relationship with Orion grew stronger. We lived like an ordinary couple, indifferent to outside gossip, content with our life together. After dinner one evening, Orion said he wanted to take me somewhere. I didn't expect him to bring me to such a place. He blindfolded me specially. I felt the maid change my clothes. She often surprised me. I was used to it, but still filled with anticipation. My mouth involuntarily curved into a smile as the maid led me into a room. Orion personally removed the red cloth from my eyes. I was stunned. The place was decorated like a wedding chamber. I looked at Orion. He was dressed in wedding robes. I glanced down and saw that I was also in wedding attire. Orion poured wine and smiled, saying, "Sarah, This is a human marriage ceremony. We've been together for 4 years. I hope it's not too late for this ritual." Tears of joy flowed from my eyes as I shook my head. Of course it's not too late. I knew Orion was nurturing his health, and I was prepared, just waiting for him to take the initiative. Yet, I was still nervous when the day came. But Orion was gentle. I didn't suffer, and the following time was sweetly intoxicating. I loved being with Orion, even if we had no children. Time flew by, and soon, Evangeline gave birth. On the day her child was born, she and Drake had an unprecedented quarrel. Evangeline had given birth to an earthworm. Drake, in a fit of rage, struck her, accusing her of infidelity. Evangeline, in despair, took the child to the Dragon King, demanding justice before all the Beast Tribe. The situation alarmed everyone. When Orion was about to leave, I stopped him. After years of marriage, he understood me well, and immediately took me along. After 7 years, we were back in the Dragon King's hall. Evangeline knelt on the ground, holding the little earthworm. Drake's face was dark with suppressed anger. Isolde and Aurora held their children, anxiously watching. "Please, Dragon King, clear our names. Drake has wronged us," Evangeline pleaded, tears streaming down her face. Drake's accusations had shattered her heart. Drake clenched his fists in fury. "I am a dragon. How could my child be an earthworm? It might never even develop intelligence. And you still dare to argue? The higher my hopes, the greater my disappointment. I was prepared to father a young dragon, but no other offspring is acceptable." Evangeline's reproductive potential was undoubtedly good, otherwise she wouldn't have birthed a young dragon in our past life. Even though the young dragon's talent was the lowest in the Dragon Clan, its starting point was beyond what many Beast Tribe members could achieve in a lifetime. When the young dragon was born, Ronan nearly took half the Dragon King's position. Drake had great expectations, a hope spanning 2 lifetimes, but the little earthworm brought him a disgrace, making him feel humiliated. This little earthworm was as pitiful as my unfortunate snake child. Under the Dragon King's recognition spell, Drake's blood was firmly drawn into the little earthworm's forehead, making the earthworm sleep more soundly. Drake turned pale, staggering back, shouting, "This is impossible, impossible!" His child should have been a young dragon, not the lowest of earthworms that might never transform into a dragon. The Dragon King's face was also dark. He had hoped Evangeline had been unfaithful. Evangeline laughed wildly. "Look closely, everyone. My son is indeed Drake's child. It's his own fault. My Silvermind clan has the strongest fertility. If not for such a useless partner, how could a Silvermind bear an earthworm? Drake was heartless, so don't blame me for being unkind. Drake Dracon is a useless wretch with no dragon essence." Evangeline laughed madly. She was furious, having endured so much pain to give birth to a child only to receive scorn instead of love. She couldn't accept it, refusing to bear such a stigma while Drake righteously hit her, exposing his shame. Watching this, I sighed at the difference between love and lovelessness. Recalling my foolish previous life, I felt nauseous. I retched, and in the tense atmosphere, everyone looked at me. Evangeline laughed. "Sister, you feel disgusted too, right?" Drake's dead gaze turned to me. Even though he didn't know I was also reborn, it didn't stop him from hating me. Drake sneered. "What right do you have to mock me? Evangeline, no matter how useless, still gave birth to a dragon heir. You couldn't even manage that. What right do you have?" Orion's face darkened. "Drake, everyone knows my body is too weak to have children. Why are you taking out your anger on my wife? It's my fault, not hers." Drake was so angry he wanted to call Orion a waste, but he didn't finish his sentence. I made a sound of acknowledgement, and Drake, with a dark face, walked toward me. Orion stepped forward to block him, but I suddenly vomited. My vomiting was intense, and Drake stopped in his tracks. Orion was concerned, patting my back and asking for water. He turned to the Dragon King to apologize, hoping I wouldn't be punished. I was touched, but couldn't stop vomiting. "Seraphina might be pregnant," someone said, bringing everyone back to their senses. The witch doctor quickly arrived and checked my pulse, sometimes frowning, sometimes making noises. Orion was very nervous. "What's wrong with Sarah? Tell us." The witch doctor was momentarily stunned before saying, "Congratulations. She's pregnant. I was counting the kids' numbers." Orion and I were both stunned. I hadn't used any secret methods to help Orion, yet I was pregnant, and it was with multiple children. Drake's face darkened as well. The Dragon King, overjoyed, asked, "Did you count correctly? How many kids does the Seraphina have?" The witch doctor wiped non-existent sweat from his forehead and checked my pulse carefully. Finally, he said in shock, 9 pulses. She's having 9 babies." Everyone in the store gasped. Only Orion's face remained dark. Protecting me, he coldly said to Drake, "Drake, please stay away from Sarah. My children don't like you." Orion was indifferent, believing that since I had been fine during the pregnancy but vomited terribly after seeing Drake, it must be the babies in my belly not liking him. Drake clenched his fists, feeling humiliated by everyone's gaze. He left in shame and anger. Evangeline, holding her child, glanced at me with an unclear expression and silently left as well. "Orion, your beast consort is having multiple children, so take the next 3 years off. You don't need to worry about anything and just take care of her until the children are born," the Dragon King said, very pleased. Having 9 children at once was unprecedented in the Dragon Clan, where even 3 was a lot. A stream of rewards flowed into my and Orion's palace. Back at the palace, Orion took great care of me. He worried about my nausea, but since returning from the Dragon King's hall, I hadn't vomited again. Orion touched my belly and sighed. It really is because of him. Since the babies don't like him, we won't see him again. "Sarah, I'm so happy. I'm going to be a father with 9 babies. I need to come up with 9 names and prepare a lot of things. I should start preparing quickly." As Orion spoke, his eyes reddened. Looking at me, he choked up, "Sarah, you've worked hard." I shook my head with a smile, not feeling it was hard because pregnancy in the Beast Clan was different from the human clan. If a human had 9 children, their belly would probably explode from the strain. But in the Beast Clan, having multiple children was normal, and our bodies could handle even 10 or more without problems. I didn't feel the process was difficult, and Orion's careful care gave me a sense of security. As my belly grew, he often talked to the babies, and I looked forward to becoming a mother. As my delivery approached, the Dragon King moved us to the Dragon Palace. My pregnancy attracted the attention of the entire Beast Clan. When I went into labor, my sisters came. Isolde and Aurora comforted me, saying it wouldn't hurt much. Even my second sister, Evangeline, with a complicated expression, wished me a safe delivery. Thunder rumbled outside, and dark clouds gathered over the Dragon Palace. Orion stayed by my side. Seeing the unusual weather, I knew this birth was extraordinary. Everyone was waiting for my delivery. The Dragon King even gave me 100 spirit fruit to strengthen me. I felt dizzy, wondering why there was thunder during my delivery. In my previous life, there was thunder when Evangeline gave birth to her little dragon. I suddenly realized, could it be that one of my 9 children is a little dragon? The pain made it hard to think, and my body felt like it was being torn apart. I heard the midwife exclaiming, but I didn't have the strength to open my eyes. When I woke up, Orion was by my side, eyes red. I smiled at him. "Why is the you crying again?" Choking up, Orion said, "You've suffered. How are our children?" I asked, trembling, feeling reassured by Orion's care. He asked for the children to be brought to me. I saw 9 golden baby dragons. I was too stunned to speak, but quickly understood the signs. In my previous life, I gave birth to a little snake for Drake, and Evangeline gave birth to a weak little earthworm for Drake. This time, she had a white dragon, and I had 9 golden dragons, showing my reproductive prowess was better. In my previous life, Drake had harmed me, and Evangeline was also harmed by Drake. "Don't cry, Sarah. We won't have any more children after this," Orion said, feeling distressed that childbirth was hard on me. I nodded through my tears, agreeing not to have more children. It was fine. Seeing the 9 children, I noticed the smallest one had a black spot on its head. I immediately asked for the 9th baby, wondering if it was my poor little snake baby from the previous life, who also had a black spot on its head. As I thought of the snake baby, tears flowed. The 9th baby seemed to sense this and moved its little dragon head to nuzzle my chin. Whether or not it was my snake baby, I would love it dearly. With 9 little dragons, Orion was made crown prince, and I became the crown princess. After recovering, I went to the main hall with Orion. The Dragon King asked what reward I wanted. Knowing everyone was watching, I knelt and sincerely requested, "Seraphina wishes for an opportunity for the Silvermind clan, hoping we can achieve great success in the Beast clan and not be looked down upon by humans." Silvermind clan are weak in the Beast clan and hated in the human world. Our royal mouse females spend their lives breeding for others. The Dragon King has the royal fortune of the Beast clan, and if he grants this, our Silvermind clan will inherit some of that fortune and no longer be humble. Humans have 4 immortals: Fox, Yellow, White, and Willow. I dream that our silver mice can become immortals too. The Dragon King pondered for a long time, and the entire hall was silent. Finally, he asked, "Don't you want to ask for something for yourself?" I shook my head, saying I only had this wish. After another long silence, the Dragon King spoke, All right, I grant it. From now on, the Silver Mice will have royal fortune in the Beast clan and be one of the 5 immortals in the human world. I smiled in gratitude. My father sent treasures to thank me, and the Silvermind clan honored me as the first gray immortal mother. My days were peaceful and prosperous. 10 years later, my 9 children were running around, and a major event happened in the Beast clan. Evangeline and the merfolk had a mermaid child, leading to her divorce from Drake, which was taken to the main hall. Drake was extremely gloomy, glaring at me with hatred, then at Evangeline with even more hatred. Evangeline, holding her child, righteously said, "You can't do it, so I found someone else. We've long lost our feelings for each other. You don't even look at my cheer. We've endured your insults for so many years. I've had enough." Chier is that little earthworm, now a chubby, cute boy. Though mentally deficient, Evangeline took good care of him, making him likable to everyone. "You always said if you hadn't chosen me, you wouldn't be so humiliated. I've always wanted to say, if I hadn't chosen you, I might have given birth to a dragon too. With the merfolk, I had a mermaid with good potential. Similarly, with the dragon clan, I could have had a dragon. Though I'm not as good as my sister, my reproductive potential isn't bad either." Drake's face turned pale, and he seemed afraid. Facing Evangeline's demand for a divorce, she took away the disliked little earthworm. The Dragon King mediated, allowing their divorce and separation. Despite the little earthworm's lack of potential, the Dragon King gifted many treasures, wishing him a peaceful life. Evangeline planned to go to the merfolk's land. She visited me in the East Palace, expressing many sentiments but ultimately saying, "Sister, I was immature before. Don't hold it against me. Drake is mad and might come after you. Be careful. He always talks about his previous life, which I find ridiculous. If there really was a previous life, whoever was chosen was unlucky." Evangeline could leave because she didn't love Drake. I smiled as I saw her off, wishing her well on her journey. In my previous life, I sought Drake's love, and as a result, both my poor snake child and I met a tragic end. But that won't happen in this life. I love Orion, but there's always a part of my heart that I keep for myself. I didn't take Evangeline's words to heart. After all, we're now in the Crown Prince's mansion. Drake couldn't possibly break in unless he staged a coup, but without heirs, what would be the point? To my surprise, Drake didn't stage a coup, but he did sneak in. He didn't harm me. Instead, there was guilt and regret in his eyes, which puzzled me. He gave me a smile and said, "Sarah, do you know? I am actually reborn. In my previous life, I chose you, and you bore my snake child. It was my fault for not cherishing you. I took the wrong path in this life too, but it doesn't matter. After I die, I will be reborn again. In my previous life, after you and our child died, I committed suicide, and that's how I was reborn. Sarah, believe me, next time I will ask for nothing. I only want you. I will cherish our snake child, and we will live happily together as a family." After he finished speaking, Drake slit his throat with a knife. His head rolled to the ground, still staring at me, with a look of gentle regret on his face, and his body was still twitching. I knew he still had some consciousness left. I spoke coldly. "Drake, there will be no next life for you. You could be reborn, not because of some great power you possess, but because of my poor snake child." He was on the verge of transforming into a dragon, and had grasped the power of temporal reversal, which allowed us to be reborn in this life. "Thank you for not marrying me. My snake child and I will live happily, and there will be no next life for you." I watched as Drake's lips trembled. His eyes widened, filled with anger, regret, and other emotions I couldn't understand, but I didn't deceive him. There would be no next life. Little Nine is the snake child. He used temporal reversal to allow both Drake and me to be reborn, because we are his parents. But the cost of this was that if I didn't give birth in this life, the snake child wouldn't be born again. Fortunately, fate was on our side. Drake's suicide in the Eastern Palace didn't cause much of a stir. Orion reported it to the Dragon King upon his return. Drake's body was taken away and buried in the Dragon Valley, and everything returned to peace. Little Nine, being the youngest, was the most considerate. Orion often said, "It's as if you and Little Nine knew each other in a previous life. He understands and cares for you the most." Despite being the youngest, he always looked after his mischievous siblings. Watching the children playing happily in the distance, I felt my eyes moisten. I said to Orion, "You need to love Little Nine a bit more. He likes being praised by you. My little snake child, in this life, you will have a father who loves you and will praise you all the time." Orion smiled and agreed. "Of course." Hand in hand, Orion and I walked toward the children, our happy silhouettes cast in the sunlight.